Welcome to the deep dive. If you've ever enjoyed, a perfect cream puff, maybe an eclair, or even seen one of those amazing croquembouche towers,
Hmm.
we're talking about pâte choux, it feels like the absolute bedrock of French pastry, doesn't it?
It really does. French is always the word that springs to mind. You think Paris, elegance, centuries of, well, French know-how.
Exactly. But here's the twist we found digging through the sources. The real deep history of this dough. This is actually not French at all, not originally.
Right. Many culinary historians trace its roots, the core technique anyway,
Yeah.
back much earlier, to Italy.
It's like the ultimate Italian Trojan horse in the world of French desserts.
Yeah, it's fascinating. We've been looking at historical accounts, really focusing on that moment in the 16th century where these two huge cultures collided. You've got the Italian Renaissance, super refined.
And then the French royal court, which was, well, different.
Very different. So our mission for this deep dive is to follow that dough, the ancestor of pâte choux, all the way from Florence over the Alps and see how it landed in France.
We want you to see how, kind of accidentally, a big political event ended up giving us one of the world's great pastries.
And it's more than just a recipe story, isn't it? It really shows you how culture moves, how power shifts.
How a marriage can change what people eat.
Exactly. It's about realizing how one political union could basically inject a whole new set of ideas, art, manners, food, into another country. It's a real aha moment.
Okay, so let's set the scene. The year is 1533, and the key player is Catherine de' Medici.
Ah, yes, Catherine. From the Medici family in Florence. Think banking, power, art patronage, incredible wealth.
And she's only 14.
Just 14. And she's packed off for this major strategic marriage to the Duke of Orleans.
Now, we should probably pause here for a quick fact check, because we saw this error pop up a few times in some, let's say, less careful sources.
Oh, the Henry VIII thing.
Yeah. Some accounts mistakenly say she married Henry VIII of England. That is absolutely wrong.
Completely wrong. She married the Duke of Orleans, who later became King Henry II of France. It's firmly a French connection.
Right. We always want to make sure we're sticking to the verified facts for you.
Yeah.
So, French royalty. She arrives in Marseille, 1533.
And the marriage itself is important politically, but the real story for us is the huge cultural gap between Florence and the French court at that time.
Let's paint that picture. Mid-1500s. What's cooking in Florence versus Paris?
Okay, Florence is peak Renaissance. Food is an art form. Seriously, like painting or sculpture, it's sophisticated.
So, delicate sauces, fresh ingredients.
Delicate flavors, complex sauces, herbs, beautiful presentation. And they're already innovating with sweets, like early forms of gelato, ice cream.
Well, okay, now hop across the border to France.
France's.
Yeah.
Well, it's still shaking off the Middle Ages, culinarily speaking. The food is much heavier, coarser.
Built for fuel, not finesse.
Pretty much lots of heavy spices, maybe to cover up flavors sometimes,
Yeah.
Ginger, cinnamon. Presentation wasn't really the point. It was about feeding a lot of people until they were full.
And it wasn't just the food, it was the whole table culture. Our sources say Catherine's group introduced things like artichokes, broccoli, truffles.
Things the French court hadn't really seen before.
But also, maybe the fork.
Yeah, the use of the fork as a personal eating utensil, can you imagine? The French nobility were mostly still using knives and hands.
It's quite a picture. This refined Italian group arrives, forks in hand.
It just highlights that massive difference in refinement she was bringing with her.
Which leads us to her team. She didn't just show up with a suitcase.
No way. She brought her Brigata di Cucina, basically a whole culinary brigade, chefs, pastry specialists, patissiers, even ice cream makers, gelatieri.
She imported an entire high-end food system.
She absolutely did. And this is where our dough story really kicks off. The key person, according to legend and culinary history, is her pastry chef, Papolini.
Sometimes called Pantarelli in other sources.
Right. And he brings this technique from Florence they called pâte chaud, literally warm dough or hot dough.
And this is the direct ancestor of our modern pâte choux. So let's break that down, because the technique itself is pretty ingenious. What was Papolini actually doing?
Okay, the absolute key is that the dough gets cooked before it goes into the oven. There's a specific stage called dessécher. It means to dry out.
So he wasn't just mixing flour and water.
No, it's more involved. He'd make a kind of base, almost like a roux, on the stovetop.
Walk us through it. How does that work?
You start with your liquid, maybe water or milk, and butter. Heat it up till the butter melts. Then, and this is important, you add all the flour at once.
Dump it all in.
Yep. And then you stir like mad over the heat. That's the desséché part. You cook it for a few minutes, stirring constantly until it comes together in a ball and you see a little film on the bottom of the pan.
Okay, why cook it? What does that achieve that just mixing cold doesn't?
Ah, it's science. By heating the flour in the liquid, you force the starch molecules to soak up that moisture really fast and swell up. It's called gelatinization.
Like making gravy or a bechamel?
Similar principle, yeah. But here, gelatinizing the starch on the stove creates this unique kind of sticky structure in the dough, and that structure is amazing at holding on to moisture even after it cools down a bit before you add the eggs.
Ah, I think I see. So when you pipe that dough out and blast it in a hot oven.
Exactly. All that moisture trapped inside turns into steam very quickly.
And the structure holds.
Right. The gelatinized starch has set enough that it traps the steam, forcing the dough to puff up dramatically, creating that signature hollow inside.
That is clever. Before this, bakers were mostly using yeast, or just eggs, right? Which gives a heavier result.
Much heavier or denser. Popolini's method gave this incredibly light, airy shell that didn't collapse. It was like structural engineering with dough.
Okay, but the things Popolini made back then, they weren't quite profiteroles as we know them today.
Not quite. He made little round puffs called pupalini, or poplin named after him, presumably. Yeah. Now, the fillings were usually fruit jellies, maybe jams, or perhaps a very simple, firm custard. Not the rich pastry cream or whipped cream we expect now.
So the fundamental DNA,
Mm-hmm.
the technique, the structure that's clearly Italian, it arrived with Catherine's crew.
Undeniably.
Yeah.
But the polishing, the perfecting, making it iconic, that's where the French take the baton.
That makes sense. It's a story of adoption and evolution. The French chefs saw this brilliant base.
And they ran with it. They refined it over, well, the next couple of centuries. Even the name change tells that story. It goes from the Italian pâté à choux, hot dough, very functional.
To pâté.
Right, pâté à choux. And choux in French means...
Cabbage, which sounds weird for a dessert.
It does. But if you look at those little baked puffs, especially before they're filled or glazed, they do have this slightly wrinkly round shape.
Ah, like tiny little cabbages. Okay, I get it now. So the name reflects the look the French gave it.
Exactly. But the real refinement went beyond just the name or shape. It became much more technical, and that happened quite a bit later than Catherine's time.
So the Italian technique was a starting point, but it needed standardizing.
Precisely. It needed to be made consistent, reliable.
So who are the big French names that took pâte à choux to the next level?
Well, you have chefs like Jean Avis in the 18th century, who is known for his work with it. But the real giant, the one who basically codified modern pâte à choux, is Marie-Antoine Carême.
Carême, the superstar chef of the early 19th century, often called the founder of French haute cuisine.
That's him. Carême was obsessed with precision and structure. He standardized the recipe, the exact ratios of liquid, fat, flour, and especially how to incorporate the eggs perfectly.
So he made it foolproof.
As foolproof as pastry gets, he realized this wasn't just for little puffs. This dough could be the foundation for so many elegant desserts. Think eclairs, the Saint-Honoré cake. He made it a cornerstone of high-end French patisserie.
So he took this Italian invention and basically turned it into a pillar of French culinary identity.
That's a perfect way to put it. It started as this, maybe slightly rustic Italian import, and it became the absolute definition of French pastry elegance.
It's a great story of cultural transfer and transformation.
It really is. Although, we should add that little historian's note of caution.
Yes, the evidence.
Right. Pinning down exact recipes and techniques from the 16th century is tricky. Written records weren't always detailed, especially for kitchen practices.
So Popolini didn't leave behind a signed, laminated recipe card.
Sadly, no. So the story relies a lot on later accounts, culinary historians piecing things together, and what you might call accepted oral culinary tradition.
But the bigger picture holds true.
Oh, absolutely. The fact that Catherine de' Medici's arrival dramatically changed French food, that's undisputed. She was the catalyst.
She really did pull the French court into a new culinary era, didn't she?
You could say she dragged them out of the Middle Ages and into the Renaissance, at least at the dinner table.
Okay, so let's bring it all together for the listener. We've got the marriage, Catherine's Italian chefs, the desséché technique, Popolini's puffs, and then centuries of French refinement culminating with Carême. What's the final verdict on the Profiteroles passport?
Well, the widely accepted view among food historians is pretty clear. The essential technique for the dough, the choux paste, came to France through Italian influence, sparked by Catherine.
What?
But But it was French chefs over generations who perfected it, standardized it, named it choux, and built its modern reputation.
So maybe we say Italian birth, French upbringing, and identity.
That sums it up perfectly, I think. You really can't understand the profiterole without acknowledging both of those powerful culinary cultures.
And thinking about Catherine's arrival, it wasn't just about choux pastry, was it? It was a much bigger shift.
Absolutely. It fundamentally changed the French approach to food, thinking about presentation, lightness, technique. It laid the groundwork for France becoming the gastronomic powerhouse it is today. It showed food could be art, not just fuel.
Which leaves us with a really interesting thought to chew on. Maybe next time you're enjoying a pastry.
Mm-hmm.
We've just seen how one strategic marriage, one political move, could introduce something as basic as the fork and the complex chemistry behind choux pastry.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, doesn't it?
What else are we eating every day?
Hmm.
You know, that sauce you like, that spice blend, maybe even the way your vegetables are cut.
What common things came about because of some forgotten diplomatic trip or a trade route or some other cross-cultural exchange centuries ago?
It's fascinating. Every meal is potentially a hidden history lesson.
It really is.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the surprisingly complex and very delicious history of the profiterole.
It's been a pleasure. Until next time, keep tasting the stories in your food.